Hey everybody, we're here with Paige from TripleSlash Studios, the creators of Magnetic by Nature. But Paige just wanted to learn first a little bit about TripleSlash Studios. How do you get a group like that together?
We met originally, most of us, as undergraduates at the University of Utah.
Where, by the by, we are doing this interview.
There's a entertainment arts and engineering program at the U, which is specifically for people that want to go into the video game industry, and they have a capstone class where one of the requirements is you make, over the course of a year, you create a game and then you publish it for sale, usually for not very much money, on some digital distribution platform. And we all took that class, even though more than half the team was not actually in that program. We were just very fortunate in that we ended up with a team where we had a wide variety of backgrounds and viewpoints, but we all got along reasonably well together, and we were very ambitious, and we're like, we want to do something that's not just a class project. We want to take it beyond the class, and just by serendipity, that has worked. It seems like the odds were against it, but here we are more than a year later, and we're still together, so that's good.
Right. What can you tell me about that first game?
So the first game was very similar in concept to the game we're working on now. We called it Magnetic by Nature Awakening, and we sort of pictured it as like a proof of concept of the game that we wanted to make. The precursor to Magnetic by Nature, it looks very different, it plays fairly different, but it's the same core concepts in terms of using magnetism to maneuver your way through a dangerous environment.
What would you say, if you could pick a lesson or two that was most insightful from your work on a prequel, what would that have been? It's
basically never too soon to start getting player feedback on a game. That's something I've really taken to heart. We started soliciting feedback from friends and peers pretty much from day one. But as soon as we started going to local events and getting kind of just strangers to play the game, the quality of the game went up drastically, because these were people who were not emotionally invested at all, so they weren't afraid to tell us what they didn't like. And that's definitely something that I think everyone on the team feels very strongly about and that we'll use again in the future.
But if you had to point out any games that have been particularly inspiring to you and your team, what would those be?
A lot of times I think when people talk about inspiration for games, they think of other games. And that makes sense because a lot of games are kind of made in response to prior games. But there's a lot of inspiration that comes from totally different areas. So, for example, in Magnetic by Nature, one of the primary sources that our art team drew from in establishing the visual aesthetic was studying the architecture of the Chrysler Building, because we wanted sort of this Art Deco-y feel, and then kind of our guiding light in terms of the play experience was actually Portal, which I think is surprising to people because, we don't have portals, we're not 3D. But a number of people on the team, myself included, the main thing I took away from the experience of playing Portal was just how, you're a projectile in it. A lot of that game is about throwing yourself through space and using physics in such a way to solve puzzles.
What kind of advice would you have for somebody who's thinking of walking the same road?
To anybody who's interested in doing games at all, whether you want to work for a big studio or it's just a hobby, the best thing you can do is just pick a project that excites you and do it, and push it all the way through to the end. Because the thing that I've really noticed with creative projects in general, but especially with games, is that that last 10% is so hard. That's like they say, that's 90% of the work. And so just pushing that project through to completion is so valuable in terms of personal experience, in terms of stuff that you'll learn, and in terms of impressing other people. If you're going to a potential employer or equally to a potential investor and you have a completed project to show them, that is worth infinitely more than all the great ideas that someone else may have.
What do you think are the changes that are coming down the line that we're going to see in the gaming industry?
I think there's going to be gaming in parts of our lives that even most people in the industry can't imagine right now. So it's not going to be as much of a captive audience as it once was.
Magnetic by Nature. It's set to release pretty darn soon. Well, thank you very, very much for taking the time with us, Paige. I'm excited to play Magnetic by Nature when it comes out. Thanks for taking the time with us.
Thank you. Have a nice day.